Okay, happy very late poetry. What are we now? Saturday, probably. Friday, Saturday? Not even sure. We're on vacation. I've gleefully lost track of the days. So, I might be traveling, so you might be getting a few less videos in the next couple weeks here. Let me tell you that today I am going to prove to you that I am not averse to um, very popular things. Well, I don't know if we can call this very popular, but I'm going to read you Tennyson's probably most famous poem, or second most famous poem. If we count In Memoriam as his most favorite, I'm going to read you my favorite poem of perhaps all poetry. I can't say that. But anyway, top 10 for sure. And it's not an obscure poem. So you're going to recognize it. Well, I will tell you. So in exchange, I'm going to give you a little obscure background on Tennyson, for which I'm indebted to the introduction of this edition, this Oxford Poetry Edition. This was one of the ones I passed on when I went to the used bookstore when they had gone through their classics and humor section, and the other one, which is Canterbury Tales. No, Johnson's Shamala, were both still there, so I bought them for 50 baht each, about a buck 50. So here's the thing. So Tennyson's an intensely he ends up being this right poet laureate, right? Poet of the Light Brigade, George Light Brigade. I'm sure he's probably in Westminster Abbey or wherever they put their poets these days. But anyway, yeah, big deal poet, but intensely personal, intensely shy, intensely inward poet to start out. And the theory of Mr. Roberts, Adam Roberts, is that he became this public poet through the process of writing In Memoriam, and that it touched the national sort of heartstrings, of course, when Albert died, right, and Victoria went into mourning. None of which anyone can argue with. It's very solid scholarship. But I do think I have a little twist on it here. So first I want to look at this inwardness of the early Tennyson. We're talking about Timbuktu. We're talking about Maud. We're talking about what are his other earlier poems? Kraken. So Tennyson, right? He has these fits. Isn't quite the word. Fits is sort of too movemented. Um, Sartre, in his book *The Family Idiot*, about Flaubert, who also had these kinds of, let's call them fugues, called them hébétudes, which would be like uh, sort of like a silent seizure. I think is a thing that happens. So this sort of just withdraw from the world and go dull and this kind of thing. So Tennyson had that, and I think you can see it in his works if you think of Merlin, right, trapped in the rock, or you think of the Kraken. Listen to this bit under the water there, below the thunders of the upper deep, far beneath, in the abysmal sea, his ancient dreamless, uninvaded sleep, the Kraken sleepeth. Faintest sunlight flee about his shadowy sides, above him swell huge sponges of millennial growth and height, and far away into the sickly light, from many a wondrous grot and secret cell, unnumbered and enormous polypi, winnow with giant arms the slumbering green. There hath he lain for ages and will lie, battering upon huge sea worms in his sleep, until the latter fire shall heat the deep. Then once by men and angels to be seen, in roaring he shall rise, and on the surface die. So this death, when being sort of exposed to the sunlight, is very interesting, I think. As one example of Tennyson's shyness, um, this essay talks about when he went first off to Trinity College, I want to say. And the first time he went into the hall, the dining hall there, he ran away and he's faced with the crowd there. Anyway, so he forms this intense bond with his with his best buddy. I'm going to say Hallam. His name I always forget. And of course, there's been speculation ever since about his relationship with Hallam. Yeah, Hallam. Um, whether or not it had more romantic under or overtones. Almost assuredly, there wasn't probably an expression of that, or even maybe identity of it um, from either person. So whether some other feelings existed, whether they were acknowledged to one, to the other, or even to themselves, I somewhat doubt. Although it's quite incestuous. So Hallam marries Tennyson's sister, um, and Tennyson, after um, trying to marry this lady for a while, isn't able to marry her until after In Memoriam is published, and he sort of publicly mourned Hallam. So the other element then to look at is this: as he becomes more sort of public figure, and his sort of opening up, if there is any. What I would argue is that there is, I think, a desire here for suicide by soldier. Not that Tennyson's going to run off to war, but you can see it in the poetry. Of course, Charge the Light Brigade, famous, right? Doomed to die. Here we've got from Maud: it is better to fight for the good and to rail at the ill. I have felt with my native land. I am one with my kind. I embrace the purpose of God and the doom assigned. So as this essay correctly states, you're not going to find in any poems before this any Tennyson at one with my kind. But I think it's really his doom assigned that he's at one with. So he could be at one with everybody, but only in death. And so he's really desiring death after the death of his friend. That's my theory. All right, so I think that's pretty much everything I have to add to the whole debate about, or the whole discussion, I should say, about Tennyson. Let's talk about my all-time favorite poem, Idols of the King. It contains 4 idols: Enid, Vivian, Elaine, and Guinevere. And here's the opening, if I can find it. I had my finger in it, and then, of course, my finger slipped out as I got excited at my talking. There we go. Oh, sorry. No, I'm not going to read you from the Idols of the King. I'm going to read you Ulysses, which is not part of Idols of the King. It's, here we go. Its own thing. So this is the opening from 1842. And you can, if anyone who has seen even probably 3 of my videos will rapidly guess why I identify so much with this alienated, traveler, lost king guy. I also find it interesting, right? Ulysses, right? Iliad is the sort of public face of Ulysses, right, in the war with Troy. But then the Odyssey is very much his personal journey of trying to come home. And so I find that interesting that there again, he associates with Ulysses. It little profits that an idle king by this still hearth among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife, I meet and dole unequal laws unto a savage race that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me. I love that line. Always puts me in mind of Matthew Arnold's ignorant armies clashing at night in Dover Beach. Back to Ulysses. I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the lees. All times I have enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that loved me and alone. On shore, and when through scuttling drifts the rainy Hyades vex the dim sea, I am become a name. I am become a name. You could just feel Tennyson feeling that, right? He's become the laureate he didn't want to be. He refused the baroncy, I think, 3 times. Anyway, he refused the baroncy numerous times before he finally accepted it. I am become a name, for always roaming with a hungry heart, much have I seen and known, cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments, myself not least. but honored of them all, and drunk delight of battle with my peers, far on the ringing plains of windy Troy. I am a part of all that I have met. Yet all experience is an arch wherethrough gleams that untraveled world, whose margin fades forever and forever where I move. How dull it is to pause to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life, life piled on life were all too little. And of one to me little remains, but every hour is saved from that eternal silence, something more, a bringer of new things. And vile it were for some 3 suns to store and hoard myself, and this gray spirit yearning in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. This is my son, mine own Telemachus, to whom I leave the scepter and the isle, well loved of me, discerning to fulfill this labor, by slow prudence to make mild a rugged people, and through soft degrees subdue them to the useful and the good. Most blameless is he, centered in the sphere of common duties, decent not to fail in offices of tenderness, and pay meet adoration to my household gods when I am gone. He works his work, I mine. There lies the port, the vessel puffs her sail, there glooms the dark broad seas. My mariners, souls that have toiled and wrought and thought with me, that ever with a frolic welcome took the thunder and the sunshine, and opposed free hearts, free foreheads, you and I are old. Old age hath yet his honor and his toil. Death closes all. But something ere the end, some work of noble note may yet be done. Not unbecoming men that strove with gods. The lights begin to twinkle from the rocks, the long day wanes. The slow moon climbs, the deep moans round with many voices. Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off and sitting well in order, smite the sounding furrows. For my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. So this ends very much on this strident note of energy, even though, 8 lines before it, we were down in that feeling of his that you could almost feel that he didn't much choose between whether he died by being washed down in the gulfs or reaching the happy isles, or maybe it's the same thing. So there you have it, my friends. At least one thing that I like is a very common, very popular thing. So hopefully this video will get seen by more than 10 people. Who knows? It's not important. But what is important is that you comment and let me know. What do you think? What did I miss out in this poem? This poem contains so much. I mean, look at, you've got a part of me is in everywhere I went, and all these ideas here. Each one you could do a whole video about. Almost every couplet. So let me know which line stood out for you, what ideas or images, what questions you have for this poem, where you think it fits in Tennyson's work overall and in the work of his fellow poets and his influence in literature since. Thank you very much. And sorry I was a bit late with this week's Poetry Thursday.